Welcome, everyone. This is Emerging Risks in a Disruptive World. I'll be your host today, Darius DeLon, with Bow Valley College. Let's get right to it. Sharks. Are they your biggest risk? Of course, lots of you know if you don't swim in the ocean, you're probably not going to be bitten by a shark. But you'd be surprised how many people really are concerned about shark attacks. The reality is 5 to 8 people in the world die every year from a shark attack, but 400 die every year from a hippo attack. Aren't hippos kind of cute? They don't have a lot of teeth, but I think maybe we count the number of teeth and we go, if it has lots of teeth, it's dangerous to us. That's not really the case. Every year in Alberta, over 400 people die in car accidents every year, whether it's pedestrians, passengers, drivers. This is a real risk to everyone. But how do you determine what's a real risk in life compared to a perceived risk? Like that shark that we talked about. Sharks have lots of teeth. I'm scared of sharks, but I'm never in the water with a shark. Or if I am, the reality is the chances of me being bitten by a shark in the water is pretty small to nil. Earthquakes. Now that's a real potential for people. Something can happen over a wide area, like what happened in 1994 in California during the Northbridge earthquake. $26.4 billion worth of damage. Roads were destroyed, buildings were destroyed, whole neighborhoods were on fire. That's a big real risk. Yet everyone still wants to live in California. I really don't understand that sometimes. You know, when you plan on your travels, you think, oh, you know, where should I go? What countries are safe? And Canada is a great, safe country. You know, the incident rate for homicides in the US is about 3 times that of Canada. But the United States is a pretty safe country. Here we're starting to look at some figures and facts to make determination of, is it a high risk or is it a low risk? And that's what we get into within the Insurance and Risk Management program. Of course, for those of you that grew up in Calgary in 2013, very real incident, flooding of all of Calgary. I think it started about June 21st. I was here in Calgary working for Mount Royal University. We called our Emergency Operations Center because we ended up getting about 500 people coming into our residences because they were displaced. So we worked with the City of Calgary's Emergency Management Agency to help those people recover. So they stayed with us for a while. And then when the flood waters receded and people could get back into their dwellings, the real issue really started because everyone was flooded out. Large losses aren't just restricted to California. They're just not restricted to places in Latin America where maybe there'd be a higher homicide rate. These issues happen everywhere in the world, but some are critical for us and some are not. Trying to determine what's critical, what's not, is sometimes pretty difficult to do. And of course, in Alberta, we also had the Fort McMurray fire. The fire was a huge issue for Alberta. With regards to that fire, I believe we had about $9 billion paid. So those people are still actually rebuilding their homes to this day. So that fire started in 2016. The people that are rebuilding those homes, or the people that are in the process of rebuilding those homes, they all talked to an insurance adjuster. That's how the process starts. That's where the industry is really front-facing to people, to you and me. First time I actually was in a car accident, I got rear-ended when I was quite young. All I knew is I bought insurance, and all of a sudden I talked to someone, and it was a very nice insurance adjuster, and they helped me along the way. Now today I understand how the system works, and I have a better understanding of it, and I've advanced my career through that, with that knowledge. But it's not all about fires, earthquakes, or sharks for that matter. Society has been changing. In the 1990s, there was really nothing really that anyone said, oh, cyber risk, cyber attacks doesn't exist. What can you get into? Oh, maybe they'll get into a bank somewhere and steal some money. Oh, that makes sense. I like to, break into a bank virtually when I'm in the Bahamas and, steal some money. That doesn't happen. What are people doing? They're breaching other companies that they can get easy access into. Marriott hotels, which I don't know if you've been in a hotel before, but if you have, chances are you've actually stayed at a Marriott. In 2018, Marriott had about 383 million records breached. Can you imagine 383 million out of 7.7 billion people in the world? Chances are you know someone that got breached. Of those records, there's 18.5 million passport and passport numbers that got stolen. There was also 385,000 valid credit cards that got stolen. So cybercrime is a big deal. The insurance industry used to never actually insure anything for cybercrime, but now they do. They're actually getting better and better. I'd say they still have a ways to go, but at the same time, there's a whole new group of people that are in the industry, actually computer experts that are working for insurers, because you need someone to help a client out after they get breached. And can you imagine someone comes into your computer, says, hey, you have a new password. And unless you pay me 20,000 Bitcoin, I'm not going to give you the new password. That exact situation happened at the University of Calgary a number of years ago. Someone got into the university's computer system, they locked it up, and what they wanted was Bitcoin. The funny thing about Bitcoin was, back when it happened, no one at the University of Calgary knew how to buy Bitcoin to pay for the ransom. So they relied on their insurance policy, and they had bought cyber coverage to actually negotiate with the hacker and allow them to actually convert money into Bitcoin to pay the hacker to get the encryption key back from the hacker. It happens anywhere, happens in Calgary, happens all over the world. But these are some of the jobs that insurance and risk professionals are in today. And of course, I'd be remiss in not talking about what's happening right now with COVID-19. There's people all over the insurance and risk industry either managing this issue right now, advising people, advising hospital administrators, also advising governments, federal, provincial, and municipal governments on the best course of action when it comes to COVID-19. The interesting thing with COVID is it's very similar to what happened with the Spanish flu in 1918. So we're going to have a lot of learnings that come from this event, but we could learn a lot from what happened in 1918. All of these pieces that we've talked about are very current. It's every day. And there's people working in the insurance and risk management industry that actually deal with this on a daily basis. This is their job. Some of it's very tech savvy, some of it's very day-to-day, like an auto collision, right? But the span is enormous. So something about me. As you know, my name is Darius DeLong. I actually started as an insurance adjuster. That was my first job. I was pretty young, pretty keen. I did a lot of car crashes. And when I was an adjuster, I would do literally 1,000 claims a year. So after a year, I actually was pretty good at doing insurance claims, right? You could say I'm becoming an expert at it at that time. I transitioned to being an underwriter and then a commercial broker. And I've worked as a risk manager for a number of universities and in real estate, including University of Lethbridge, Mount Royal University, and a firm called TrioVest Realty, who's across Canada realty advisor. And I'm the lead instructor for Bow Valley College's insurance and risk management program. So I have a wealth of information. So when I talk about this topic, actually, I have a lot of stories, and you'll get a chance to actually ask some questions of some students today. And well, what kind of stories does Darius tell? You know what? They run the gamut, from sharks to hippos to different fires to magnesium fires. My stories never stop, but the stories are there to actually create a scene for you, so you can actually see in your eyes this concept of insurance and risk management. What does it really mean? What it means is we have work to do. We have ways of doing that work, and we can figure it out. It's a fascinating industry. And as a risk manager, I've never seen the same solution for a risk twice. And think about that. I haven't seen the same solution twice. So it's not about buying insurance. It's about managing the risks. And those risks are many. So I wanted to talk a little bit about underwriting. This is that one area that usually no one actually understands unless they've been in the industry. I've been an underwriter before, and it's kind of the person's job in the back, kind of a back office job, if you will. But this is the person that actually sees everyone's request for insurance. So they come into an insurance broker, the insurance broker puts together a package and asks a number of insurance companies, hey, what do you think? Can you insure this company or this person? And if so, how much? Okay, let's say I say yes. The difficult question is how much? And that's really when the work starts. And as an underwriter, I had a great time understanding different industries. We have these great books called Best Practices. And for every industry available, every industry out there actually, they'd have a volume of information on that industry, what they do, what some of the risks are with that industry, and how to manage those risks. It was a great job. I learned a ton, and that helped me actually as I progressed through my career. And then I became a commercial broker. And so in effect, I sold insurance to clients. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm not a very good salesman. I think the students that come up later on will say, yeah, you're not at the best of sales, but that doesn't mean I can't be a good broker. I worked with a lot of clients. I never knocked on doors asking, can I sell you some insurance? But what I did is I managed that client's needs for their risks. And lots of clients had different risks. They couldn't all have the same solution. So what I did is I developed solutions for them that were custom made. And then I just did it well enough that other clients would then talk to two clients, and they come and they call us or come into the office, and we'd have new clients to deal with. So the industry is very complex. It's not what you see, and this is my story on Groundhog Day. All right, this is not that salesman approaching Bill Murray and saying, "Hey, would you like to buy some life insurance?" That's not what the industry is about. Trust me, I've worked in it long enough, and you don't see those types of people in the industry. And as a risk manager, I love that job. I still consult even to today, and it's a great part of the whole industry. It comes part and parcel with insurance. We use insurance as a tool to actually manage financially some risks. We also use some other tools to manage risks. And I have about 8 tools in my tool belt that I say. One of them is insurance, and 7 are other things besides insurance. So that's how we go forward. That's how we manage it. And when you're a risk manager, you're usually a risk manager for relatively large companies, because of course they don't want to have the expense, right? So you have to be a certain size to make it worthwhile. But the biggest companies in the world, Pepsi, Google, Nike, you name them, they actually have a risk manager working for them. My favorite company, by the way, is Disney. I had a chance to actually meet the risk manager for Disney many years ago. He really inspired me to actually bring my career forward, and he helped me actually doing presentations like this. All right, so biggest companies, the safest companies, the companies that you go and say, hey, I like to go there for a family vacation. They probably have a risk manager because you have this sense of safety, right? And that's what you need. So I'd like to introduce our students. First off, we have Eric Brink. I had the pleasure of having Eric in my class for the last couple of semesters now. Eric's finished off his adjusting class. In the adjusting class, Eric actually got the scholarship with the Canadian Insurance Claims Managers Association. So it was a $500 scholarship. A number of other students got it for the best marks. You know what? Eric's the new up-and-coming student in the industry. He still has a little ways to go in terms of some courses, but he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I know it.
All
Hi,
right.
Eric. How you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for the lovely introduction there, Darius.
So, Eric, I know you had another job before coming to Bow Valley College about a year ago. So, what prompted you to go back to school, and why did you pick insurance and risk management?
Well, I'll tell you a little story. I graduated my undergrad in 2015 and was in a pretty competitive field. I was struggling to find work, as a lot of people at the time were, and so I kind of fell back into construction, which I was doing previously. And I remember I was middle of December. I was standing in an excavation pit, 12 feet underground. Started snowing, and my supervisor came up to me and said he'd had another non-payment and we wouldn't be paid before Christmas. And I wish this was just a one-time thing, but it's quite frequent. And I just remember thinking, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I mean, all respect to those people that can. It's amazing, but thought maybe there's something else out there for me. So I started researching new careers to change, and actually had a lot of friends and family in the insurance industry reach out to me when they heard so, telling me their experiences, and I'd seen them growing up as well. They just had nothing but positive things to say and talk about. They'd been to so many interesting places if they wanted to, and to be completely honest with you, they were all doing pretty well financially. So I said, hey, let's get into this Bow Valley as soon as possible, and took your intro class, Darius, the Principles and Practice of Insurance, and probably 2 weeks into it was hooked. I said, this is what I want to do. Let's go full at it. And I've had, limited experience. I haven't worked in the industry really yet, but I've been to a few risk management events and insurance and met a few people, and it's just been fantastic. So I can't wait to get out there, and yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being at the bottom of a pit when it's snowing. Of course, the ground's going to be cold, and waiting for a paycheck for Christmas, and it's like, that's tough.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Eric? I'm really glad you're on the panel today. I'm looking forward to actually seeing you again next semester. So we're going to go on to our next presenter.
All right, thank you,
Allison. So Allison Fox.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Allison. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to join you.
As you can tell, Allison has a great accent. She even writes in the same accent. I can hear her accent when she writes. So when she's doing a case study, I can actually hear her voice.
Yeah, and I asked you once, do you read my assignments back in an English accent? I do hope so.
I do. I that's weird. I don't know why I do that, but I hear it in the English accent. And Allison has very nice handwriting. I got to say, she came over from the UK prior, and I don't know what they're doing out there for calligraphy or handwriting, but you got it. So well done, Allison.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, Allison, I understand you actually worked in the insurance industry in the UK prior to coming to Canada. Can you tell me why you picked Bow Valley College for your education?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, interestingly, we appointed an immigration lawyer to help with our transition moving here. And he suggested maybe 2 colleges. And this is someone in the UK, and they recommended Bow Valley College. He knew that I had been an insurance broker in the UK for 15 years. And one of the major things about moving to a country is obviously, what are you going to do for work, and how are you going to almost, take your experience and what you've done in one country without having to start it all again. So I put a lot down to the fact that Bow Valley College was really advertised in the UK. He recommended it. I read over the course material. And being in the industry, obviously it all looks a lot more familiar than what maybe someone who isn't already in insurance would understand. But, I could see there were lots of aspects that I wanted to learn so that I would be able to apply my experience, but also have the Canadian qualifications and educations to back that up. The loss adjusting, the underwriting were all things which I hadn't really specialised in the UK and was really keen to maybe see if that's where my career was going. And the CIP qualifications that you can also get doing that course was just added to the reason why I took it. And Bow Valley College, location, cost, and transportation facilities just ticked a lot of boxes for me.
Well, yeah, it's right on the C train line, right with the Timmies, right across from City Hall. You cannot get any closer to the C train than Bow Valley College.
No, quite literally. Yeah, you step off and you almost don't feel the minus 35 degrees sometimes.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's great. So actually, I failed to mention, but Allison is also a Canadian Insurance Claims Manager Award winner, along with Eric and our next student guest. So congratulations on that scholarship, Allison, and thanks very much for joining our panel.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Neil.
Hello.
Hi, Neil. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me here today.
Well, you're looking very smart in your suit, Neil. I understand you started a new job.
Yeah, I did. I actually just started last week. It's my second week. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm really looking forward to how your career is going to transpire over the next number of years. Congratulations on getting the new job right close to graduation. And Neil, I understand you're also the valedictorian for Bow Valley's Chu School of Business that's coming up tomorrow. Is that the case?
Yes, it is.
I'm really
fortunate to be selected as the valedictorian this year.
Well, Neil, you're a very good choice for valedictorian. I've heard your story from yourself, and also as we kind of chatted about your speech as a valedictorian. I'm rooting for you. So if there's anything you ever need as you're going forward in your career, you can always kind of come back and just ask me questions, whatever you want, and I'll help out in anything that I can do. So congrats, Neil. That's awesome.
Thank you, Darius. Yeah.
So you were working part-time at a brokerage during your full-time classes. Could you tell us a little bit about your part-time work and the transition to a full-time job at another brokerage?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually was able to join as an intern in one of the brokers here in Calgary. And at first I was a total newbie because I only took the introduction to insurance course. And even with that single course, I think I was ahead of the curve in terms of where I was at in terms of being in an entry-level position. And I think they were able to see the value in that. And that's why I was able to progress the ladder quickly during my brief stint in that brokerage. So from an admin assistant, I was able to be licensed and grow into a full commercial insurance broker position there. So during classes and during my work, I was able to actually appreciate all of the stories and teachings that Darius was imparting to us. And it was easy for me to understand the concepts because I was understanding it from a workplace point of view and from a theoretical point of view. And with Darius, some interesting anecdotes and stories along the way, I was having fun actually during the school year, which really helps when you're tackling kind of a serious topic like insurance. Yeah. And I was really worried when I was about to graduate because of the pandemic, obviously. But given that Bow Valley College really prepares you in having a holistic kind of package with you and knowing a lot of industry knowledge about insurance, I was lucky to get a full-time job, even if there's a lack of employment in the country right now. So I was really fortunate. And I think I should credit Bow Valley College and Darius especially in preparing the students to be work ready after graduation.
Well, Neil, you mentioned an interesting piece, in being able to actually get a job during literally a lockdown on COVID-19, where we found a lot of jobs kind of going backwards, if you will. When what I saw within the insurance industry, they didn't lay off, but they actually just held the line. So they said, well, we're not going to hire right now. Although I think they're going to be hiring right now in a little bit because of what happened with the hailstorm that just happened on the weekend. So they'll probably be hiring some new adjusting students as catastrophe adjusters or adjusting assistants to help out with the thousands of homes, the probably tens of thousands of cars that have been damaged or destroyed over one little hailstorm, big hailstorm. But to try and manage all those claims will be a big job ahead of us, because they're thinking it's going to be about $1 billion to do the repairs for all those cars and homes.
Yeah, that's true. And to add, actually, I just want to add this, that I think the insurance industry is one of the best kept secrets out there. Like, if you join the industry, everyone will tell you that they don't regret joining the industry because it's like recession proof, right? Like, there's a lot of jobs all the time for everyone. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, very much so. So Neil, one more question for you. Where do you see your career taking you?
So right now I'm in the sales side of things. So I'm a broker. I'm a junior insurance account representative at one of the insurance companies here, and I see myself trying to build my insurance career and try out all the different aspects of it before I settle into one, because I'm still in the early stages of my career. So I would want to try the different fields like underwriting, adjusting, and before I settle in one. But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing right now. I really like talking to people, and I really like connecting with a client, especially during these times when there's a claim and they need really help. And asking the right person or asking the right insurance advisor really helps in that process. Yeah.
So Neil, are you going through all the 3 components of the insurance industry because of the story I told you when we started classes?
Yeah, I think you're a heavy influence on my career decisions. Yeah.
Well, remember, Neil, my story it was about a girl, right? And I think you have to work about how it starts so you can get a funny anecdote to work into it. But I'll save my story for those students that go into the intro class.
Yeah, I think that's the best bet. Just save it when they enroll and have fun in the courses. Yeah.
Yeah, those courses are definitely a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Trevor from the Insurance Institute of Canada. Trevor, I'm going to just kind of work through our slides and then give you control. Oops.
Thanks, Darius. My name is Trevor Batchram. I'm the Manager of Career Connections at the Insurance Institute of Canada. And I'll walk you through a little bit about what that means and what that's all about in terms of my background and expertise and sort of where I sit in the insurance ecosystem. So the Insurance Institute of Canada is the designation and education body for Canada's property and casualty insurance industry. And you may have heard a couple of times referenced throughout this presentation the Chartered Insurance Professional designation, or some of the courses and textbooks that the students had the opportunity to experience as they were moving through the insurance curriculum. What's great is that we partnered with Bow Valley College in terms of embedding that designation right into the very DNA of the program. So students in the program have the opportunity in their insurance-specific courses to write national examinations for up to 7 of the credits that are a part of the program. And so there's the opportunity to work towards that designation with the support of the industry and to get kind of excited about where your career can go. once you're working in the sector, you'll have the opportunity to finish off that designation as well, take next steps in terms of your career, and we're here to support you in terms of networking opportunities, ongoing professional development in the form of seminars or events, and as well kind of get you excited about where you can go next through building your network. And of course, too, there's also career connections, which is kind of my wheelhouse and where I've spent the duration of my career as a part of the insurance industry. When you think about sort of your journey so far in your career, some of you may not have woken up and said, gee, I want to be an insurance underwriter, or I want to work in claims, or I want to have the opportunity to maybe experience data science from an insurance perspective. None of those things may have been on your radar screen, but they should be. And that's why we're coming together as an industry in presentations like this to really showcase to you what the industry is all about and why the insurance industry might be a destination of choice for you. So essentially, I want to answer the question a little bit about why insurance and why should you consider this industry as a place to grow and nurture your career path. Well, first of all, if you think about insurance, it's a part of everything you do. So why not find your career in it? So whether it's the forms of transportation that you take each day, where you live, the businesses that you interact with, the sports and entertainment that you consume, if you look around you, there's risk everywhere. And Darius was highlighting that off the top, and insurance professionals need to help people understand those risks, protect against them, and also have a plan should risk become a reality. There are lots of different individuals who comprise this sector as well. So no matter what your background is or what your interests are, there's a place for you within insurance. And so often we're asked when about taking this program, what if I'm not necessarily a business grad, or if I haven't had a lot of experience with numbers? Well, if you think about insurance, because it is embedded into everything we do, we require people with diverse education profiles and with diverse experiences to really make the industry go. So if you're interested in, let's say, the law and contracts and wordings, you can find ways to be able to apply those skills. If it's somebody who's interested in things like science, Darius referenced magnesium fires, so fire causation analysis, kind of getting into the nitty-gritty in a claims investigation role, accident reconstruction. Or if you have that healthcare passion and wanting to help people when they're at their most vulnerable, or being that subject matter expert, claims might be for you. So again, no matter sort of where your interest sits, you can find passions and ways to be able to apply within the industry. And also to talking through, because it's not what you think and it's a whole lot more. And hopefully just by referencing all the different kinds of insurance products and services, seeing and hearing the different stories of the panelists who have been here today, you're recognizing this is a pretty big industry. There's a lot more to it than initially kind of scratching that surface, particularly around that perception that sometimes we have that it's all about sales. So taking a look at insurance being at the forefront of game changers, and these are just some images around things like drones, autonomous vehicles, cybersecurity, big data. You can see the sharing economy being referenced there. And of course, as you've just experienced in Calgary this past weekend, extreme weather or climatic change. So things that are kind of at the forefront of all the minds of business leaders or individuals in terms of what's going on in and emerging in our society. It's a part of the industry, and we've needed to figure out either how to offer protection or mitigate and control those risks appropriately, so that people are able to go forward. Think about, for example, Uber blossoming sort of really quickly and being a part of our lived experience. Well, it was one of the first times that personal vehicles were being leveraged for commercial use. So how do we protect everybody in that equation and develop unique types of insurance products and services to respond to that new reality? And how do we do so quickly so that it's not viewed that we've been stodgy or holding things back? In fact, most of the time, we're the ones making the recommendations and pushing us forward. The other thing that I just want to demonstrate here is also the nimbleness of the industry. And if you think about where we are right now in COVID-19, think back to the very beginning of the pandemic when you were hearing news stories of companies making the transition from, maybe being a distillery and being able to produce hand sanitizer, or maybe they were producing one thing and are now producing mass amounts of personal protective equipment. There's a transition in their business, and there's differences in their risk, and so insurance professionals needed to be that trusted advisor to be able to step in and say, it's really great that you're contributing to the public good. How can we do that in a way that is within sort of the guidelines for that different industry that you're now stepping into? How can we help you understand those so that you're able to adapt and respond in your business very quickly? And also making a couple of concessions and recognizing this isn't what your policy was initially designed to cover. How can we put a couple of amendments into place so that you can do what you want to do to give back at this particular point in time? So no matter what you choose in terms of your career, I hope that these are a part of it. Recognition, advancement, being part of an inclusive community. These are the things that insurance professionals tell us each and every day about what their experience looks like. And in my role, I have the pleasure of working with about 400 industry volunteers whom we call ambassadors. There are about 126,000 Canadians working across the country. And when we survey them, these are the things that they're telling us. And so the two that I want to zero in on are that stability and variety. So with insurance having that 500+ year history and also being embedded into virtually everything we do, it's not going anywhere. And Darius named, really with COVID-19, there weren't mass layoffs, and we have previous examples of that. In the 2008 economic recession, for example, we added 12,000 positions to our workforce and continue to grow. Delivering on the insurance promise requires people, and we've emerged as essential, and even more loudly in the face of a global pandemic. Other is the variety. Darius illustrated through his own career, and you're hearing the career stories of others, like Allison and Neil talking about different areas of the business or even different countries that they've had the opportunity to work in. And so very rarely does an individual's career follow sort of that linear trajectory. More often than not, it's more of that squiggly line. And that's motivated ultimately because you're in the driver's seat. You have the chance to kind of navigate and steer your career in the direction that you want to go based on your goals, your life circumstance, and kind of where you see yourself going in the industry. Why choose insurance? Well, a career that many feel good about. That's one of the key reasons. These engagement numbers were actually a part of a research study that we conducted in conjunction with the Conference Board of Canada. When they compared the insurance industry to other labor markets, they saw that people really love what they do. They get excited about what they have the opportunity to contribute, and they feel like they're a part of something. So you can see that here. 97% of industry professionals feel that they contribute to their company's success. So the work that they do each and every day is going to be able to make it happen. So I think it's exciting just to be able to see that people feel like they're a part of the industry from day one. There's also a clear link between what you're doing each and every day and the goals and objectives of your company. 88% tell us that. 94% are proud to work in insurance, and 77% believe that their company inspires them to give and do their very best. These engagement numbers, I can tell you by having conducted engagement studies in other sectors, they're outstanding numbers. Normally this hovers more like 50 to 60% in other areas of our economy. Of course, too, the insurance industry embraces who you are. So it reflects the face and values of Canadian society. So if you think about that 126,000 number that I shared with you off the top, it may surprise you to know that the face of the industry right now is a 42-year-old who identifies as female and likely heads a claims and underwriting department. So 62% of the industry are in fact women, and in Alberta that number is actually even higher. The other is to recognize that there's diversity within that number. So 16% identify as a person of color. It's 17% in the general labour market within Canada, so well in step and certainly a leader in the financial services sector. It's also important to recognize that 39% of the industry right now, or the largest share within any industry within professional and financial services, the largest share of employees under the age of 40. So that sort of vantage point that the industry is older or not with the times is in fact a misnomer. We are trending younger each and every day and benefiting from that intergenerational voice of experience to create diversity of thought and to be able to continue to drive us forward. It's important to note that we meet that kind of diversity organically. We don't have a federal mandate to be there. So meaning that the industry is welcoming, inclusive, and creating spaces and continually focused on how to help people to continue to deliver and to continue to be themselves authentically at work. There's also the transferability and applicability of skills and experience. And so I don't want you to ever discount what you're bringing to the sector. So if you've worked in construction like Eric, the skills that you have in terms of understanding building codes, the safety and security considerations around being able to operate heavy equipment. If you've had experience like Allison working in another country, most insurance organizations have global perspective because many of us are part of that global movement or that global world in terms of the work that we do, or even where we travel or where we might own a vacation home, those kinds of things. So having experience like that can be invaluable. The other is things like that you might think might not be related, like being a camp counselor. I can't think of anything that requires more risk management than a bunch of 8-year-olds with bows and arrows. And so, you've likely applied some of the foundational skill sets and roles in hospitality, camp counseling, being a part of recreation, being a part of financial services or any office environment. The final piece that I'll highlight in this area of our presentation today is just the wide array of work environments. And so you've seen the different kinds of risk. You've even gotten a glimpse into some of the different kinds of environments, just by seeing Neil on camera in his new office. But there's a lot to be said about the size. So insurance employers range in size from 5 to 10,000. Culture, some being more sort of traditional and sort of guided by history and community focused, or others that might be really focused on new ways of doing business and have maybe a virtual platform that they're using to sell insurance products and services. It's about finding the culture that fits with who you are and what you're bringing to the table. It's likely a blend of those two things, and those are right across the industry. You can work in urban and rural environments. You can work virtually anywhere across Canada in the industry, and so lots of different opportunities that await you. So again, truly a career that embraces who you are as an individual. The final piece that I just wanted to note is now we've talked about the opportunity, we've talked about sort of what it looks and feels like to work in the sector. It's also important to know that there's not just possibility within the sector, but there's probability. So the Insurance Institute of Canada conducted demographic research that took a look at essentially the census and state of being within the industry in 2018. At that time, 25,000 employees are expected to retire by 2027, the majority by 2022. What that means is that we've got a talent crunch and we need to find talented, creative, and motivated people to join our industry. And so, again, no matter what your background, your expertise, or sort of where you see yourself fitting in, there's a place for you. Final thing is just around leadership. Noting that if you're looking for that potential to move into management roles, 35% of individuals within the management ranks are expected to retire on the same timelines. That means there's going to be accelerated growth opportunities for new entrants within the sector. So lots of different things just to kind of be thinking about, is that not only is there the great array of opportunities to consider, but great opportunity to be able to step in, find your place, and potentially even advance your career to its greatest heights. So that's all for me. I'm just going to turn things back over, and we'll start with our Q&A.
Well, thank you, Trevor. That was awesome. I appreciate your presentation. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo, so I'll just let the group behind us kind of work on that. As you're talking about the demographic shift, I have to say I've seen that quite a bit in my own career. I remember starting, quite a while ago. Allison, Neil, Eric, you guys can attest, it's a while ago. But in my day, the managers were very much older. Of course, when you're younger, everyone's older. But they're very much in their 50s and their 60s, and as their managers, and it felt like it'd take me forever to get to that point, and I had to wait till I got to that age. And as I went through, what I realized is the industry is changing, and there is that demographic gap, and people are younger, and I mean, they're great candidates. They're great people to get into that supervisory and management role, and we can't wait around for people to have 10 and 20 years of experience before they become a supervisor. That's just not going to work. The industry is growing. We need people to kind of ramp up pretty quick. And one of the ways to be on that fast track is to actually get the education in place. Get that base foundation that allows you to then leapfrog, if you will, to the next job, right? And as you're going to go to the next job, whether it's in adjusting or underwriting, or if you move between fields, it's a great additional experience to your talent. And all of a sudden your talent becomes pretty substantial, and people will come to you and say, hey, have you thought about doing this? Well, we need a supervisor here or a manager there. Yeah, you've never done it before, but you know what? We want to commit to you and take a risk, if you will, because we need to go there. So I've seen that quite often in my career. And I also know as I get older, everyone gets younger. So that's just the reality of it. But I do know I wasn't always this old. So there is a younger generation of supervisors and managers within the industry. So I've seen a few questions come up. So let me start off with, someone said, I have a question for Darius. What's a day like for a typical insurance adjuster? That's a great question. I quite enjoyed my days. I'll give you an example of a little bit later on when I was a little bit more experienced. Because, as an early adjuster, I dealt with just, somebody stealing something from a car. You do that a number of times, but then you progress into single vehicle accidents, multiple vehicle accidents. And, I got a chance to progress into bodily injury claims. So Trevor talked about earlier, if you have that compassion for those people that are injured or get into an accident, I had to actually get some training, and I got that through the company that I worked with, which was Zurich, Canada, on how to manage bodily injury claims. And it was fascinating. And what happened is, by that stage of my career, I was getting about 5 claims a day, and each of those claims were somewhat different than the one before. These were mostly now, someone got injured in the accident. Some of them were pretty significant. I actually had to travel to meet some of either our insureds, or I had to travel to meet some lawyers to talk about a litigated case. I also have been in court as an adjuster, working with our counsel to actually present our case. So it's been very interesting and has progressed actually pretty quickly. I was an insurance adjuster for only 3 years before I actually started getting into bodily injury claims and commercial businesses. So it was a great experience. And actually, as an insurance adjuster, that's when I learned how to ski. And I know it doesn't make sense that you learn how to ski when you're an adjuster, but all adjusters love to go skiing. So if you're an adjuster, you have to go to Banff or you have to go to Panorama and join the group. So let me tell you, when you're in your 20s and that's the first time you ski, it's a weird experience. So hopefully that helps. The other question that came up is, well, actually we have kind of some more. Oh, just trying to scroll through here. Someone asked about licensing. So to work in the insurance industry, I'll say there's no licensing requirement for anyone that starts working for an insurance company. There's licensing that starts, and Neil's an example of this, as he works as an insurance broker. Because Neil works in the financial transaction component of it, there is actually legislation that kind of dictates there has to be a license. So Neil, he would have had to complete at least 2 of the courses, which was Introduction to Insurance and Risk Management and Broker Essentials. And then he's capable of actually applying for his insurance broker level 1 license in Alberta. So there is licensing, but that's usually only for the insurance brokers. There is another license that falls in for independent insurance adjusters, but most people start their career as an insurance adjuster for an insurance company. So you're not independent, you're actually working for a company, and there's no licensing requirements. So that actually makes it a lot easier to get into the industry. I saw another question with regards to class size. So Bow Valley College, all our classrooms are actually 40 seats or less. So there's no classes over 40. So this keeps it relatively small. A lot of the insurance classes and the risk management classes, we have an assortment, anywhere from 15 to 35. I think the busiest class that we always have is the Intro to Insurance and Risk. And actually we'll run 1 or 2 classes of that in the spring and in the fall, because that's where everyone kind of gets into the industry and they go, okay, is it for me? I've tried it. Oh, I like it. Maybe I'll try 1 more course next semester, or I'll kind of go full load and do another 4 courses next semester. So it varies quite a bit, but definitely under 40 seats in any class. And we do actually have a couple of online classes. So the first class, the Intro to Insurance and Risk, is online, as will be, and because I'm developing them right now, is the risk management classes. So they're risk management principles and practices, which is already done. It's just being finalized with media. There's also risk assessment and treatment, which I'm in the process of doing right now in the spring. And then the third one is risk financing, which will be done sometime in the fall. And it'll be in time for probably a spring release for 2021. So about 4 classes so far online. We're working to get more online as we can. And even those classes that aren't online, Bow Valley College pivoted pretty quickly within about a week. And what we did is when COVID happened, we said, hey, let's suspend classes for a week. We got heavy into MS Teams, and we use MS Teams now for all of our classes, kind of managing connectedness and video conferencing. And we're on the platform for MS Teams right now. So in the middle of March, I actually changed all my classes from traditional in class to kind of a hybrid, and we met same class time, but remotely. So Bow Valley College is just that agile enough to actually be able to say, hey, let's change how we're moving. We pivot. We make sure that we're actually still able to deliver these courses for students, because we can't stop. We can't just say, hey, we're going to be closed for a couple of weeks, come back later. No, we have to do what we promised to do. And this is where our strength is. So let me take a look at some of the other questions that have come up. Sorry. Well, here's an interesting question. Which field has more scope, supply chain management or risk management? You know, never ask a risk manager if there's more scope in their job than supply chain. Of course, there's more. You know, supply chain and supply chain risk management, because there is an element, a very strong element of risk management within supply chain. You know, I'd have to say that risk management would be the umbrella that you're looking at, and it kind of covers off all the different sectors within that field. And lots of the fields have their own specific risk management in place. And you can imagine everyone manages risk. There may or may not be a risk manager, but within supply chain, you're managing risk day to day. How are you making sure that, let's say from a logistics perspective, your 20 trucks are crossing the border into the US and all the paperwork that has to go in place to get those goods into the US and then back from the US into Canada, and all the interruption that ensues. I can imagine with COVID-19, there's fewer people at the docks to allow goods to come in and out of the country. A lot more personal protective equipment for everyone involved. So, you know what? I'm a risk manager. I'd have to say risk management has a wider field or wider scope than supply chain. But I know the supply chain instructor for Bow Valley College, and she would probably say the other way, that supply chain would have a larger scope. We debate that quite often. All right, let me just take a look at some more questions. Okay, so I have a couple questions that are kind of large, which are kind of difficult for me to go through. Let me take a look. I'll just kind of ask our support group to just kind of go through some of our questions because I seem to be limited in where I can go with my cursor.
Hi, this is April, our moderator. We actually have questions for the for our learner panelists.
Okay.
So we'll go to Eric and Allison and Neil, if he's still here. One of the questions that came in was wanted to hear from the students as far as what the classes are like and what your student experience was like being at Bow Valley College. So what did you like about your classes? Did you take any online classes? Those kinds of things. So let's start with Eric.
Well, how about we ask that question of Neil, because I don't know if Eric heard that question. So Neil, did you hear that question from Victoria?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I can answer that. So a typical class size, as Darius said, ranges from 20 to 40, right? But it's typically engaging, and because Darius uses a lot of examples, real life examples, and a lot of videos, it's easy to relate it to everyday life. And so I really felt that going to an insurance class was really fun because you get to learn more and understand the insurance industry each class or each session. So yeah, and definitely the your classmates are allowed to like share their stories as well in terms of what their knowledge is with insurance or at risk, so you can bounce ideas off each other. Yeah, so I really felt that it was really very engaging and very conducive for us to learn insurance in the classroom setting. And because of COVID, we were transferred to the online environment using Microsoft Teams. But again, I didn't feel that it was an impediment to us in that kind of class environment, because Darius is a good moderator in churning out ideas from the students. So yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you, Neil. Victoria, do you have another question?
So we'll pose the same question to our other two student panelists. So Eric, if you want to speak to the question about kind of the class experience that you had as a student.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I apologize. I'm still figuring out the mute. Honestly, it's been a fantastic experience, even above and beyond just the insurance industry. Bow Valley itself has been like an incredible experience with all my professors. I've done spring classes, online, in class. They've all been unique, but just as professional and like top tier education as I've had. Being right by the public library too is super nice. But in terms of actual insurance in class, they're relatively small and personal, and we get into things that sort of, doesn't just get covered by the small scope of the textbook, and just real life examples. And I think my favorite has just been the discussion. Sometimes we're up and posting on the board and posting notes on the wall and definitions, and it's almost like a game environment. Not all the time, it's sometimes serious, but it's been terrific in my opinion.
Thank you, Eric. I see Allison's also online. Allison, could you give us a little bit of what your experience has been like coming to class at Bow Valley College?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a mix of all types of learning, really. Darius is really pretty good at mixing it up. Some of it you don't always straight away know that it's directly linked to insurance, because he kind of gets you just to think about things from a slightly different perspective. But the things like that help you remember when it comes to your midterm and your finals, those scenarios. You're not just reading from a textbook. You're not just getting the textbook answer to everything. It's more about scenarios and how to overcome problems. And he provides, all the instructors do, so much information about policy wordings and real life things that you will use. So yeah, it's not all just listening to a lecturer the whole time. It is very you are asked to participate. The group sizes are pretty good. You have a good group of people. I've always experienced with actually lots of experience, even if they've not been in insurance before. So overall, yeah, I've really enjoyed all of my insurance courses.
Well, thank you very much, Allison. I really enjoyed having you in class. Again, like I said, you have a great accent, and I can hear your accent when you're putting in your papers. So I know we're past the hour, and we were scheduled for an hour, and great questions from the audience. Thank you very much for those great questions. We have people at Bow Valley College that can answer a lot of these same questions as I answer these questions also. So please reach out to Bow Valley College student engagement officers, myself, our recruitment team, as you're kind of making this decision of when, where, how do I do this? Those sort of questions are very much the recruitment team and the student engagement officers that can tell you, okay, well, we start registration right away. Then you have the question about marks and all those things. So, now's a good time just to say, I'm going to do something different from what I've done before. I'm going to take a risk, right? Because risk management's not about avoidance and saying, I'm not going to do something because it's risky. It's actually about how will we do something because it's risky, because it will be challenging, but we need to have those tools to figure out how to do it better. So that's what risk management's all about, just doing it better, figuring it out. So there's no time like the present. So as you're contemplating what you want to do during COVID and thinking what will you do for the fall semester, I'd like you to consider Bow Valley College. I'd like you to consider the insurance and risk management industry. It's been very, very good to me. I fell into it. And I'll tell you the full story if I get to see you in class. Hopefully you won't be falling into it. You'll be actually strategically going through your studies and ending into the industry. So I look forward to seeing that from everyone. With that being said, I think we're about 6 minutes past. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you all to the presenters, student presenters, Eric, Allison, Neil. Very much appreciate your time and effort in putting this together. And I know some of you will be graduating actually, in June, tomorrow, and some will be continuing on. So looking forward to that and seeing you in the industry. You know what, don't lose touch. I want to hear from you guys and how you're doing. So as you see me at a Serum's breakfast or an Insurance Institute function, always come over, always say hi. And maybe by that time, we'll be able to shake hands. So with that being said, thank you everyone for coming out. And we'll end the presentation. Thank you, everyone.